everyone, it's Tashrik Zombie, and today I am doing my birthing story video for you. I asked in my last video if anyone would be interested, and I got a few comments saying yes, so I figured let's go for it. Also, what do you think of my background? I'm in my new living room that has just had all these pictures put up. I'll be putting up more, but I figured this looks so much better than my filming background before. And I have a sleepy baby on my chest, so if she starts crying or wiggling, I'll deal with it. So yes, so I decided to share my birthing story because I feel it's something that we don't share enough as humans who can carry babies and have babies. And every birth is different, and this time around was so insanely different to when I had my oldest daughter, Ivy Rose, 10 years ago, for many reasons. I still heavily think that because I was 19 and a single mum, I had a pretty crappy time in the hospital when I had Ivy, where now I'm 29 and married, it was very different. So, but that's maybe a whole different video that I probably won't film. I might write about it or do a podcast episode on it, because I'm planning to start a podcast. I'm not sure what it's going to be about yet, but I have all the equipment, I have everything set up to do a podcast, I just don't know what I'm doing it on. So Aurora was born on the 17th of March this year, so St. Patrick's Day. And she weighed £7.14 and was born kind of in the evening, like early evening. Yeah, about 6:30. So in this pregnancy, you watched it in my videos while I was pregnant, I had gestational diabetes, which can happen to any pregnant woman. I was at more risk because diabetes runs in my family, and given my weight, I was a higher risk, so I was tested quite early and they caught it quite early. So what is gestational diabetes is caused by, the placenta causes it. As soon as you give birth, it goes away. And it's quite similar to type 2, but the rules are much stricter. So you have to test your blood 4 times a day. I was on insulin, I was on tablets. The diet is basically like the keto diet. It's no carbs, no sugar, and high fat everything. So for example, you had to pair everything with fat. So if I wanted an apple, I'd have to pair it with peanut butter or cheese. Cheese on everything, pepperonis on everything. It would have sucked if you were vegan. This diet would honestly suck. I never want to look at pepperoni for the rest of my life. I'm actually like, I used to eat cheese on everything, and now I'm like, had enough. Still have cheese every day, but it was a really difficult pregnancy given that I have had eating disorders in the past. So any form of control or diet over my food, I really struggle with, because that was a huge part of that. Believe it or not, now I'm overweight, but I used to be not severely, but very underweight, and I didn't eat. So it was really emotionally hard on me. But I got through it. So because I had the gestational diabetes, I was induced, and this was pretty much common knowledge on like all the Gestational UK Facebook page, which was an amazing support group. I pay for membership to get recipes as well. Now this seems to be maybe more common in England, because in Scotland, so I had to go to the clinic every 2 weeks, and my doctor was like, yep, you're definitely getting induced, but it took so long for them to find, because everything was fine, she was growing fine, she wasn't off the charts, because with the gestational diabetes there's a risk the baby can be too big or too small, and they have to induce you. Now usually you don't go to term with gestational diabetes, they will induce you early regardless. So at first, once the doctor had finally set on a date, they decided that I'd be induced a week early. So because she was due on the 30th of March, and that was fine, literally fine by me. And so we moved house on the Friday. I went to the hospital on the Tuesday, and the doctor, it was a different doctor this time, was like, yeah, we're gonna have you come in on the Thursday and induce you. So this was 2 weeks before she was due. Literally hadn't even been in my new house for a week, and I was sent to hospital. Now I was put into the hospital on the Thursday, and Aurora was born on the Sunday. It was a long process. It was a really long process. So the reason it took so long was the wards were crazy busy. Even the midwives were like, it's never usually this busy. The labour ward, it's just one person after the other coming in to have their babies. The ward I was on waiting to be induced, all of us were constantly told, you'll be next, you'll be next. Some couples went to other hospitals to have their baby because they just couldn't take waiting. Some came, it was literally like that episode of Friends where Rachel gives birth. Someone would come in and be got us builders outside, be gone the next day. Some would come in and go into labour straight away and have their baby. It was so frustrating because you're told you're next, you'll be seen next, you'll have your baby by tomorrow. That just didn't happen. Now, the midwives and everything were amazing, and they were so sympathetic. There was couples there who gave so much abuse to the midwives, especially the men, just putting that one out there. Why hasn't she been induced? Why hasn't she had her baby? Blah, 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 blah. So much. I was just like, oh my God, we're all in this. We're all frustrated. It's not the midwife's fault. It's nobody's fault. Just chill. You know, we all want to go home and have our babies, you know. I found it particularly hard because obviously I already have a daughter, and being away from her for so long was really difficult. My husband wasn't allowed to stay the night. He could come hang out all day, but he wasn't allowed in after 10 o'clock at night. So it was a really lonely experience. It was really boring. I started doing crosswords just to keep my sanity. I just had Netflix downloaded on my phone. I had a ton of data because he had messed up with our broadband, so I had so much data on my phone, thank God. So I just was watching the Versace American Crime Story and RuPaul while I was in labour. Sorry, there's literally builders right outside my window looking in the window, and it's really, really weird. And I'm filming at the window. They're doing work on the outside of my building, and it's really weird. There's a guy standing right there, so I may have to stop filming. Oh God, they're gone, thank God. So I was induced on the Thursday night. Basically, induction is this huge pessary they put up inside you. It's basically like a large flat tampon. It's gross. It's not very comfortable. So they put that in to start the induction process. They've just switched on the machine. I'm gonna have to see what the audio was like after I film this. I may have to refilm this video. So they put that in, and they were like, some women, it breaks their waters straight away, puts them in labour straight away. Some, it can take days. So it was a 24-hour one. Now, the next morning I woke up having contractions, but they weren't far enough apart, they weren't strong enough, and oh my God, when you're having Braxton Hicks contractions, you think you're in labour. It's nothing compared to real labour contractions. So they were like, this is good, things are moving along, see how it goes. But I wasn't dilated. I had so many vaginal exams. It was unreal. It was horrible. It was painful. It's humiliating. You know, it's not fun. Like, having a baby is not fun. It's not a fun experience. After it, it's great. Once your baby's here, it's amazing. So 24 hours had passed, the contractions had stopped. I was still only like 1 centimeter dilated. things just slowed down, which they were like, that's normal, don't worry about it. So I had to take the pessary out, which was disgusting. I guess like pulling out a tampon, but it stinks. And it's gooey, and it's gross. TMI, but hey, if you're waiting for an induction and haven't had one before, that's what it's like. So that was the Friday night, and I was like, fine, I'm a bit fed up, but we shall see. But because I'd had some contractions, they didn't put in another one because they didn't want to distress the baby. So it was just a case of let's just wait and see. So constantly strapped up to the monitor, checking baby's heartbeat, checking mine, checking movements, checking for contractions. The Saturday was rough. It was very busy on the ward. New babies had arrived, people had gone home. I'm still there. By this point, I was missing my daughter like crazy. I was just an emotional wreck. I just wanted the baby out of me. I wanted to go home. My husband brought my daughter over as a surprise, which was so nice. You know, I was still struggling with the gestational diabetes, so I was still having to test my bloods all the time. Still trying to like eat accordingly, and then obviously hospital food's not great, it's very carb heavy. You know, you're kind of stuck, you don't have many options. And then by the Saturday, I kind of felt a little forgotten about. Like, I wasn't getting as many checkups, they weren't checking on the baby as often. Obviously, if I felt like she wasn't moving, I was freaking out. So, admittedly, by the Saturday, I was not in the best headspace. I wasn't in the best mood. I was just emotional and tired. And then again, this girl came in, her waters broke straight away, and she was lucky enough to go to the birthing centre, which is like, oh, everyone wants the birthing centre, but you have to fit a really strict criteria to go to the birthing centre. And that broke me. It wasn't her fault. I don't know who she is. I was so happy for her and hoped that she had a safe delivery and her baby's okay. But it broke. I just broke because I was so frustrated being told, you will be next. You will be the next one leaving this ward. My husband came back, but he was too late. He just missed the 10 o'clock cutoff. The midwife was like, it's fine, just go sit with him in the waiting room, get out of the bed for a bit. And I just cried and cried for like 2 hours. I just sobbed. I snapped at the midwife. I felt awful, which I apologized for later, because it was just such a tiring experience. And you're in pain, you know, after God knows how many examinations, how many doctors, how many nurses and midwives you've spoken to and had to repeat yourself. And it was hard. It was really hard. And I really hope, because I'd had such a quick labour with Ivy, and everyone had said to me, oh, your labour with Ivy was so quick, your induction will be super quick and easy. I mean, I know compared to some people, mine was still quick, and some people, you know, have it would result in C-sections, which it didn't for me. I was really fortunate, but it was still really difficult. And the next morning I'd got up and the midwife was like, I'm 100% positive you are next. As soon as that bed is free in the labour ward, you're going. Like, by this point, contractions had started up again. Some I could feel, some I couldn't, because they were like, according to the machine, you're contracting. I was like, can't feel it, but okay, I'll take your word for it. You know, little miss here was getting pretty kicky. I think she was fed up. And I had amazing midwives. The midwives on that ward were fantastic, and they were so kind and lovely and caring and fun and just there to mop up the tears, to talk to you, to listen, to hold your hand, you know. And literally sat down to breakfast, and the midwife comes through and goes, the bed's open, you're going to move, finish your breakfast, pack your bag, go into labour ward, phone your husband. You know, Grant got there thankfully just in time, got to labour ward, met our midwife, and she was so lovely, and I have a gift for her, and I can't remember her name, and it's been 2 months, and I still need to go to the hospital and give her thank you present and card. And she was so nice. She had her baby a year ago, around about the same time. She was about the same age as me and Grant. She was so down to earth. She never left, well, she left the room for a little bit and came back and was so apologetic, and I was like, it's fine. She's like, oh, I had to just deliver another baby. But my experience with Ivy was I was left on my own pretty much almost for most of my labour, on the labour ward with Ivy. Like, the midwives just kind of popped in and out. They weren't really there, so I wasn't like, how dare you left for half an hour, you know. No. And she was so kind. She kept asking, you know, what do we want, what do we need, what's our birthing plan. She got an aromatherapy diffuser, and we picked what oils would be best. She got massage oil, was like showing my husband the best way to like massage. We tried all these different positions, because when you're in labour, being upright is, gravity is on your side. You want gravity on your side, although your instinct is to lie down, because at least mine, when I'm in pain, I want to lie in my bed on my side. So she was amazing. So at 12:30 they broke my waters. Now how they break your waters is basically they have this big wooden like crochet hook. I don't think it's wooden, maybe, but I don't know. It's basically a giant crochet hook that they put up in you and swirl it around to break your waters. And they did that, took a bit, and then boom, my waters broke. Now my waters of Ivy broke on their own, and they went everywhere. Like, it was out under the door, it hit the wall, it hit the ceiling, like. So yeah, she was like, oh my god, okay, these waters have broken. Now, again, very different. This time I was encouraged to get on my feet, get on the ball, go for a walk. Now I'm in my pyjamas, and yeah, this was after my waters were broken. Now, once your waters break, it's not just like one big burst of water. It continues to just flow out of you. So there's me trying to waddle around with these huge pads on, around the hospital. I think by that point, obviously I didn't go down to the canteen or anything. I was just wandering around the ward, waddling. Then after an hour or two, I want to say by 2:30, I was put on the drip. So the drip is the hormone drip. So I think if after your waters are broken, if labour hasn't come on itself, they put you on the drip. Now at this point I kind of had contractions. So the drip is a hormone drip that is typically given if you're induced or have your waters broken, and it just moves things along quicker. It does, however, mean it's a much more intense and a much more painful labour. So they start you on like 2, and it gradually goes up. So I'm on the drip, bouncing away on this ball. She kept moving, so they struggled to keep getting like a steady reading of her heartbeat. So basically they had to again insert this little chip that basically, I think they actually like pinned it in her head, because when they're born they have like a little scar, so they could get a better trace of the heart rate. So that kind of meant my movement was a lot more restricted, because obviously I'm attached to the drip, and now I have more cables coming out of my vagina strapped to my leg to monitor the baby, which is obviously attached to the monitoring machine. So I kind of at that point was just basically stuck to the ball / the bed. I eventually moved back onto the bed, because at this point the contractions were unbearable. I used gas and air. I went on the bed, and then at one point I was like, I need to push, but I know she's not ready to come out, but my body is telling me to push. And the midwife was like, do you need to pee? So I had to get a catheter, and I've never had one of them before. That was an experience, and they were like, oh, you really needed to pee. My husband was like, I have never seen so much pee in my life. And then I've been a little better for a bit. And now I went up to over 20 units on the drip. According to the midwife, most people, sorry, I need to stop saying women, it's not just women who have babies, get up to about 8. This is a weird flex I'm going to have, and I'm going to keep with this, is I got up to over 20 before I asked for any pain, like strong pain relief. She's like, most people only get to 8. I was like, I have a high pain threshold. Now, by this point, I was like, I need the epidural. Get me the epidural. I didn't want one. I really didn't want one, but it got to a point that the gas and air wasn't helping. I was relying on it too much because they were like, you need to slow down with it. And I was like, don't take this out my mouth. I was so self-conscious about screaming, so I'd scream into the tube, and my husband was like, it was so hard not to laugh because I sounded like a velociraptor. At one point I was so high on gas and air, apparently I did basically what my uni degree is. I broke down Little Shop of Horrors, how it's an anti-capitalist musical, and how it's amazing. I'd been watching it like the day before I went into hospital. Apparently I like really plot pointed and broke down the whole theory behind Little Shop of Horrors. My husband was tweeting about it while I was in labour, and I thought it was hilarious. Yeah, so the anaesthetist came through. She was a bit of a bitch. She was so like, everything must be sterile. Why is this aromatherapy thing on? Don't touch this. Don't. And I get that that's their job, but she had no bedside manner, so it was just so stressful. So and I mean, don't get me wrong, epidurals are so high risk and they are a stressful thing, and that's why I didn't want one. So they got the needle in, and then she was like, right, don't touch. No one could touch like the area. She went off to get the epidural drugs, like the thing that makes it go. And at that point, I had to be sitting upright, and I moved slightly, and I was like, I need to push. The baby's coming. And the midwife was like, are you sure? I was like, I need to push. My body basically started pushing by itself. And she's like, well, just check. And she was like, oh my god, the baby's head is already out. I think being upright, just gravity, and I literally pushed twice, and she was out. It was so quick. So that was at 6:30. So my labour was really, really quick. Really quick. The anaesthetist came in and was like, oh, the baby's here. And she was pissed. Like, oh, she was not happy. So nothing against getting an epidural, not at all, just I didn't want one because of the risks. And Aurora was born, had like, you know, when babies are born, there's these little squishy bundles, and they're all purple and gooey, you know, they're covered in that white gooey stuff. Now things have changed, because when I had Ivy, it was pretty much have a quick skin to skin, try and breastfeed, then give her a bath to get rid of all the stuff. Now they have learned that all the white stuff that covers the baby is so good, and to let it sit on them for a few days to absorb, because it moisturizes the skin, it makes them feel safe and warm because it's like the womb. So that was a new experience for me, not having my baby whisked away and washed, you know, because when I had Ivy, it was like, oh, take her away, weigh her, wrap her in a blanket, then hand her over. Where this time it was very much like, baby's out, straight onto my chest. And Grant was crying, I was crying. I didn't cry when I had Ivy, funnily enough. And I just held her like this for so long, and I hold her like this like all the time. And she was there, and just the feeling of like, I've done it. She's here, she's in my arms, she's safe, and she's well, considering it was such a very complicated pregnancy. You know, I had a lot of problems during the pregnancy, a lot of scares at the start of the pregnancy. Everything was worth it. Suffering through that diet was worth it. Panicking every day, being miserable, it was all worth it, because as soon as she was in my arms, it just all went away. And it's so cliche when people say that, but it's true. It was the same when I had Ivy. Except this time, I remember everything about the birth. With Ivy, I blocked a lot out. Because everyone's like, you forget it, you forget it. I did with Ivy, but not this time, not with Aurora. I remember everything vividly, and I can still kind of have like touch memory as well. And then obviously you get to inject your vitamin K injection, and then an injection to help pass the placenta. Like, you think you've birthed that baby, you think you're done. No, you didn't have to push out your placenta. Well, at least I had to push it out when I had Ivy. This time they pulled it out of me, and she showed me it, and oh my god, it is crazy. She showed me the umbilical cord, and the midwife was like, I had the biggest umbilical cord she'd ever seen. Umbilical cords are crazy. They're like technicolor, and they're so big and colourful. And in the placenta, I never saw it with Ivy. It was crazy. Honest to God, I was like, this is so cool. And then I just bag it up and get rid of it. I didn't want to keep my placenta and eat it. I didn't do enough studying into that. And then that was her shift over, and she was really happy that Aurora was born before her shift was over. And then we had another midwife who was really nice. She ran me a bath. Now, I didn't need stitches. I didn't need stitches when I had Ivy. I just had some tears. I didn't need stitches. And it hurt to pee for months. I had to take a jug of water with me to the toilet to pee because it hurt. And I thought that was what was going to be this time. So that fear, the first time you have to go to the toilet after you give birth, is terrifying. I went and I was like, why am I not in pain? Why does this not hurt? Why am I not screaming? Because the midwife kind of laughed at me when I said, like, oh yeah, blah blah, and she's like, you'll be fine, you didn't have stitches. So I honestly, to this day, stand by the fact I should have got stitches when I had Ivy, because I didn't have them this time and I had no pain. Well, obviously there's pain. Obviously, you just pushed a human being out of you, but not to the extent that I did before. Had a bath. You are covered in blood. You are so bendy and flexible after you give birth. Your legs are toned as hell. And then I was put back onto the ward. I stayed overnight. It was pretty, again, daunting because Grant, my husband, couldn't stay the night. So it was a bit like, you're on your own on the ward with this baby. Again, when I had Ivy, I had a private room because I was sick after. This time I was on the ward, but it was just one other woman and her baby who was the same age. It was quiet. When I had Ivy, when I was on the ward, it was loud and she didn't sleep. And I was in the hospital for at least 3 days. Why, I don't know. My gran told me that they requested I stayed in, I think because I was so young. Anyway, my in-laws and Ivy came to visit Aurora. They were the first ones to meet her. And then the next day, I just, had lots of checks, talked to the doctor. They checked because they put the needle on my back, so just checked I was okay. And checked Aurora. So they had to do quite a few foot prick tests because I had the diabetes. So there's a much higher risk the baby will be born with diabetes. And she kept shivering. And they were like, we don't know if it's because she's cold or if this is a diabetes, like jitter. So they did quite a few heel prick tests on her. And they all came back fine, so that was a relief that she wasn't born with diabetes, because that's a big risk. Her hearing test was fine, her hip test was fine. We were discharged and sent home, came back here, and the first night was tough. The first night is the hardest. They don't sleep at all. And then we got like a rocking stand for the Moses basket, and that made a huge difference. I think having her higher up and closer to us. I hate when people are like, is your baby a good sleeper? Is your baby well behaved? It's like, babies can't be misbehaved. If I was to compare to Ivy, yes, she sleeps better. Doesn't feel like it always. I'm exhausted right now. Not really had much sleep for the past 3 nights. But Aurora does have reflux, and that has been keeping her up at night. Ivy, there was a lot of other things going on. She wasn't a very well baby for a while. There was a lot of health problems. So this time round, I do feel more relaxed. My mental health has been a bit bleh, which is a discussion to have, but a lot of that is to do with other things going on in my life. And yeah, induction was hard. It was emotional. it was a long process. But I would say I had this time around was a much more positive, better outcome. Not outcome, but experience. I would say if you're being induced, be prepared to be in for a long time. Bring lots of snacks, books, download things onto your tablet or your phone. Make like a visitor plan, like ask friends and family to come visit you because you'll be lonely and you'll be bored and fed up. Be nice to your midwives and nurses. They're doing their best. And yes, they can take it. Yes, that's part of their job. But they are trying so hard and they are amazing. And yeah, also be prepared for pain. Be prepared to have the 9 months worth of period after you give birth for at least 6 weeks. No one talks about that. Put all your pride at the door and leave it at the door, because you're going to have your vagina pretty much fisted by strangers. You're going to have your butt out. You're going to be leaking milk. You're going to be crying and snotty and smelly. Leave your pride at that door and relax. And that's easier said than done. But trust in what the health professionals are telling you and go with your gut. You know what's best. If you think something's wrong with you or your baby, speak out. Don't go, I'll wait 5 minutes, or I'll wait till the nurses come back in the room. Push that buzzer. Anything, even if it's nothing in the end, it's always worth talking to the midwife. That's what they're for. Now this is now over half an hour long, so I'm going to end it here. Obviously, if you have any more questions or want to share your own story, just my comment section is open. Feel free to comment. If you follow me